This is no longer Slaughterhouse 5. This is now Slaughterhouse 6. Still in World War II? Let's find out. Listen. Billy Pilgrim says he went to Dresden, Germany, on the day after his morphine night, in the British compound in the center of the extermination camp for Russian prisoners of war. That was literally the summary. Listen, Billy Pilgrim says that he went to Dresden, Germany, on the day after his morphine night, in the British compound in the center of the extermination camp for Russian prisoners of war. He's in the British compound in the center of the extermination camp for Russian prisoners of war. Billy woke up at dawn on that day in January. There were no windows in the little hospital, and the ghostly candles had gone out. So the only light came from pinprick holes in the walls, and from a sketchy rectangle that outlined the perfectly fitted door. Oh, the imperfectly fitted door. I just thought he was being ironic. And blah, blah, blah. So the only light came from pinprick holes in the walls and from a sketchy rectangle that outlined the imperfectly fitted door. Little Paul Lazaro, with a broken arm, snored on one bed. Edgar Derby, the high school teacher who would eventually be shot, snored on another. Billy sat up in bed. He had no idea what year it was, or what planet he was on. Whatever the planet's name was, it was cold. But it wasn't the cold that had awakened Billy. It was animal magnetism that was making him shiver and itch. It gave him profound aches in his musculature, as though he had been exercising hard. The animal magnetism was coming from behind him. If Billy had had to guess as to the source, he would have said there was a vampire bat hanging upside down on the wall behind him. Billy moved toward the foot of his cot, before turning to look at whatever it was. He didn't want the animal to drop into his face and maybe claw his eyes out or bite off his big nose. Then he turned. The source of the magnetism really did resemble a bat. It was Billy's impresario's coat with the fur collar. It was hanging from a nail. Billy now backed toward it again, looking at it over his shoulder. Billy now backed toward it again, looking at it over his shoulder, feeling the magnetism increase. Then he faced it, kneeling on his cot, dared to touch it here and there. He was seeking the exact source of the radiations. He found two small sources, two lumps an inch apart and hidden in the lining. One was shaped like a pea. The other was shaped like a tiny horseshoe. Billy received a message carried by the radiations. He was told not to find out what the lumps were. He was advised to be content without knowing that they could work miracles for him. It was all right with Billy Pilgrim. He was grateful. He was glad. Billy dozed, awakened in the prison hospital again. The sun was high. Outside were Golgotha sounds of strong men digging holes for upright timbers in hard, hard ground. Englishmen were building themselves a new latrine because the Americans pooped in the old one and ruined it. Actually, let me rephrase that. The Americans shitted all over the old one, so now they have to build a new latrine. Outside were the Golgotha sounds of strong men digging holes for upright timbers in hard, hard ground. Englishmen were building themselves a new latrine. They had abandoned their old latrine to the Americans. And their theater, the place where the feast had been held, too. 6 Englishmen staggered through a hospital with a pool table on which several mattresses were piled. They were transferring it to living quarters attached to the hospital. They were followed by an Englishman dragging his mattress and carrying a dartboard. The man with the dartboard was the blue fairy godmother who had injured Paul Lazzaro. He stopped by Lazzaro's bed and asked Lazzaro how he was. Lazzaro told him he was going to have him killed after the war. Oh? You made a big mistake, said Lazzaro. Anybody touches me, he better kill me, or I'm gonna have him killed. The blue fairy godmother knew something about killing. He gave Lazzaro a careful smile. There is still time for me to kill you, he said. If you really persuade me that that's the sensible thing to do. Why don't you go fuck yourself? Don't think I haven't tried, the blue fairy godmother answered. The blue fairy godmother left, amused and patronizing. When he was gone, Lazzaro promised Billy and poor old Edgar Derby that he was going to have revenge, and that revenge was sweet. It's the sweetest thing there is, said Lazzaro. People fuck with me, he said, and Jesus Christ, are they ever fucking sorry. I laugh like hell. I don't care if it's a guy or a dame. If the President of the United States fucked around with me, I'd fix him good. You should have seen what I did to a dog of mine. Or a dog one time. A dog? Said Billy. Son of a bitch bit me. So I got me some steak, and I got me the spring out of a clock, and I cut that spring up into little pieces, and I put points on the end of the pieces. They were sharp as razor blades. I stuck them into the steak, way inside, and I went past where they had the dog tied up. He wanted to bite me again. I said to him, "Come on, doggy, let's be friends. Let's not be enemies anymore. I'm not mad." He believed me. He did? I threw him the steak. He swallowed it down in one big gulp. I waited around for 10 minutes. Now Lazzaro's eyes twinkled. Sorry. He twinkled. Now Lazzaro's eyes twinkled. Blood started coming out of his mouth. He started crying and he rolled on the ground as though there were knives on the outside of him instead of on the inside of him. Then he tried to bite out his own insides. I laughed, and I said to him, "You got the right idea now. Tear your own guts out, boy. That's me in there with all those knives." So it goes. "Anybody ever asks you what the sweetest thing in life is?" said Lazaro. "It's revenge." When Dresden was destroyed later on, incidentally, Lazaro did not exult. He didn't have anything against the Germans, he said. Also, he said he liked to take his enemies one at a time. He was proud of never having hurt an innocent bystander. "Nobody's ever got it from Lazaro," he said, "that didn't have it coming." Okay. When Dresden was destroyed later on, incidentally, Lazaro did not exult. "Nobody ever got it from Lazaro," he said, "who didn't have it coming." Poor old Edgar Derby, the high school teacher, got into the conversation now. He asked Lazaro if he planned to feed the blue fairy godmother clock springs and steak. "Shit," said Lazaro. "He's a pretty big man," said Derby, who of course was a pretty big man himself. "Size don't mean a thing." "You're going to shoot him?" "I'm gonna have him shot," said Lazaro. "He'll get home after the war. He'll be a big hero. The dames'll be climbing all over him. He'll settle down. A couple of years'll go by, and then one day there'll be a knock at his door. He'll answer the door, and there'll be a stranger out there. The stranger'll ask him if he's so-and-so, and when he says he is, the stranger will say, 'Paul Lazaro sent me.' And he'll pull out a gun and shoot his pecker off. The stranger will let him think a couple of seconds about who Paul Lazaro is and what life's gonna be like without a pecker, and then he'll shoot him in the guts and walk away." So it goes. Lazaro said that he could have anybody in the world killed for $1,000 plus travel expenses. He had a list in his head, he said. Derby asked him who was all on the list, and Lazaro said, "Just make fucking sure you don't get on it. Just don't cross me, that's all." There was a silence, and then he added, "And don't cross my friends." "You have friends?" Derby wanted to know. "In the war?" said Lazaro. "Yeah, I had a friend in the war. He's dead." So it goes. That's too bad. Lazaro's eyes were twinkling again. "Yeah, he was my buddy on the boxcar. His name was Roland Weary. He died in my arms." Now he pointed to Billy with his one mobile hand. "He died on account of this silly little cocksucker. This silly cocksucker here. So I promised him I'd have this silly cocksucker shot after the war." Lazaro erased with his hand anything that Billy Pilgrim might say. "Just forget about it, kid," he said. "Enjoy life while you can. Nothing's gonna happen for maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But let me give you a piece of advice. Whenever the doorbell rings, have somebody else answer the door."